اوكي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اهلا وسهلا بيكم جميعا. سعيد طبعا ان حضراتكم قدرتوا ان انتوا تديكيت الوقت ان انتوا تحضروا معانا السيشن النهارده. طبعا دي سيشن مميزة، وانا بصراحة سعيد جدا ان انا في هذه الأمسية يكون معانا صديقة وزميلة عزيزة، أستاذة ليلى الحلبي. سعيد جدا بوجودها معانا، وسعيد جدا وجودك معانا النهارده يا ليلى. ازيك؟
الله يخليك. تسلم يا ممدوح، الحمد لله بخير. السلام عليكم جميعا.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. طبعا زي ما حضراتكم عارفين،
وعليكم السلام.
زي ما انتم عارفين طبعا احنا عندنا السيشنز دي بنعملها بشكل دوري. واوريدي شهر ابريل هو شهر اللي احنا الثيم الرئيسي بتاعه بنتكلم فيه على الليتست ترند في ال ان دي لاندسكيب. وطبعا بما ان احنا بنتكلم على الليتست ترند، اكيد طبعا لازم الاي اي او الارتفيشال انتليجنس هياخد جانب كبير جدا من السيشنز اللي احنا بنعملها، بحيث ان احنا نقدر نشوف الاكسبيرينس بتاعه الاذرز في استخدام الاي اي. وسعداء النهارده ان ليلى هتكون موجوده معانا يا جماعه عشان to share her own experience while using ال AI for the last maybe 3 years or 4 years في ال artificial intelligence in L&D والuser experience. فالنهارده هنستفيد جدا من الاكسبيرينس بتاعه ليلى في how she's using ال AI والامباكت، وهاو ان الاي اي بيساعدها in term of سواء بقى بيوفر وقت، بيساعدها في البرودكتيفيتي. ف without any further ado I will hand over ليك يا ليلى. we are looking forward to this session. اتفضلي.
Thank you very much يا ممدوح على المقدمة الرائعة. زي ما حكى ممدوح، هنحكي شوية على the use of AI في L&D. ويعني أنا واحدة من الناس اللي I'm a heavy user of AI في نواحي مختلفة. ف مش بس in L&D، فيعني towards على آخر السيشن، يعني إذا كان في أي أسئلة في أي مجال حتى لو كان خارج ال L&D please ask it. التوبكس اللي احنا هنغطيها اليوم، هنحكي على ال AI في اللاندسكيب حقت ال L&D، ايش الاشياء اللي بنتوقع ان هي تصير مستقبلا. هتكلم كمان على شوية general guidelines لما نكون بنستعمل ال AI whether in L&D or otherwise. وبعدين I'm going to do يعني شوية demonstrations على specific use cases في L&D، وأخيرا هيكون في Q&A في الأخير. I will highlight however خصوصا في أثناء ال demonstrations إذا كان في أي شيء ما هو واضح، إذا كان في أنا واحدة من الناس اللي بتتكلم بسرعة، فإذا كنت بتكلم بسرعة you missed the point whatever please وقفوني في وقتها، ما تنتظروا إلينا ال Q&A في الأخير علشان تسألوا. let's reserve ال Q&A للquestions اللي هي general، أو ممكن تكون يعني specific application cases أو كذا، ممكن الجميع يستفيد منها في الأخير. Without any further ado خلينا نبتدي. زي ما ذكرت ال L&D function ال AI is transforming L&D في a lot of areas. في بعض منها applicable على ال corporate settings، زي مثلا creating personalized learning experiences AI مع a lot of the ERP solutions اللي موجودة، أشياء زي SAP, Oracle, و some other software and programs are يعني helping L&D professionals in هم to create personalized learning experience. So instead of إنه هو يكون a generic single solution for all participants, we can customize the content إنه هو to suit the specific needs حقت الامبلويز. لو أخذنا على سبيل المثال مثلا communication skills based على ال competency mapping حقت الامبلوي هذا، I know employee X مثلا I know إنه he or she is a good communicator لكن they need to develop a listening skills. So instead of taking them through the entirety of a communication cycle, we can customize the solution so that it only focuses على listening skills اللي that employee needs. So we can create highly customizable, highly relevant learning experiences based على competency mapping results حقت performance appraisals, feedback من managers and so on. We can also look at very targeted skills analysis and competency mapping مش بس for training purposes but also for developmental purposes. Also chatbots that help employees in learning and development, whether generally or on time في بعض الأحيان. So مثلا يكون الemployee if I take a simple example مثلا customer service representative dealing with a difficult customer on the phone, we have the capacity now إنه إحنا to create live in real time chatbots that can help the employee work through الissues اللي موجودة أو اللي they are facing يعني مع الكاستمر هذا. طبعا this requires infrastructure, so ال specific use cases هدول we're not going to be able to cover because they require الانفراستراكشر حقت ال ERP. اليوم I think التركيز حقتنا is going to be على ال sort of main areas حقت L&D. So مثلا we're going to look at how to use generative AI for things مثلا like learning design and development, content creation and so on. We're also going to look at the analytical AI for things like assessment, evaluation, analytics, and so on. I'm also going to touch on personal productivity because I think هذه واحدة من الأكثر الأشياء اللي إحنا ممكن نستفيد فيها as working professionals. And I think إنه هذه واحدة من الأشياء اللي a lot of people ignore في ال AI. كيف إنه إحنا ممكن نستفيد من ال AI علشان to improve ال productivity حقتنا وال results حقتنا. قبل لا أكمل هل في any questions or any issues with the content اللي إحنا هنغطيه تحبوا إنه إحنا we skip certain areas. Obviously أنا ماني عارفة أنتوا قد إيش درجة تمكنكم من ال AI, فإذا كانت بعض الأشياء ممكن maybe too basic we can skip them. إذا كان في أشياء تانية تحبوا إنه إحنا نركز عليها بشكل أكثر, أحب إنه أنا أسمع الأوبينيونز حقتكم قبل ما نكمل. الصمت, ما فيش أي أحد بيرد.
whether يا جماعه to raise your hand or
تمام
even
تمام
you can
بالنسبة
write
لي.
in the comment. تمام.
Okay. So general guidelines من ناحية using AI in general بغض النظر عن ال use case. So if you will notice في السلايد الخمسة points اللي في الأول, these are the ones اللي commonly يعني معظم الناس they're familiar with them. You want to be specific and clear when you're writing a prompt حقك أو instructions, إنه provide context, explain الcontext حق situation because that helps the AI to target and focus الresponses حقته. Specify the output format. تبغى, if you want a Word document, tell the AI that you want a Word document. You want an outline, tell it that you want an outline. You want bullet points, you want narrative. So specify the output format. Use role prompting. Tell the AI to act as dot 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 whatever it is that you wanted. So for example, if I am designing learning content, I'll tell the AI to act as a highly experienced instructional designer. إذا كان I am working completely different use case on مثلا developing marketing material for a program that I'm developing, then I'll ask the AI to act as a marketing specialist and so on. إذا كان ممكن, give the AI some examples of the output format that you want because that helps it give you a better output. So الخمسة نقاط هذه I think معظم الناس are very familiar with them. الأربع نقاط اللي في الأخير I think most people sometimes even if they're familiar with them they don't always do them and they make a big difference في الquality حقت الoutput. أول واحدة إذا كان you are going to be يعني working على a complex task, don't hit the AI with a very complex prompt. في شيء هيوقع منه بالتأكيد إذا كان ال prompt is very complex or is very long. So try and أنت you break it into smaller steps. أمشي مع ال AI step by step. Let the AI know, it can ask you for clarification before it starts. So I always add the sentence في الأخير after I write my prompt, telling the AI, before you start, ask me any questions you have so I can provide the needed context and information for you to be able to do a good job. So a variation of a sentence هذا, let it ask you because you don't know what you don't know. ال AI عنده certain parameters بيشتغل فيها بس we don't always know إيش ال parameters هذه. So when we give it that opportunity to ask for the additional information that it needs to do a good job, it will actually ask for that information and it will give you a better output. إذا كان الtask that you are asking the AI is important ولا critical ولا complex, once it generates the answer, ask the AI to critique the answer. So you would say something like مثلا, I don't know, you're creating an outline for a training program, for example, and it gave you the outline. Ask it to critique that outline and ask it to critique it from the perspective of a specialized instructional designer or highly experienced instructional designer or a subject matter expert in the topic that you are working on. على حسب ايش ال sort of ال issues that you have with the output. إذا حسيت مثلا إنه in terms of ال content itself, there is an issue, there are some points that are being missed and so on, then you might ask it to act as a subject matter expert. إذا حسيت إنه ال content من ناحية ال instructional design is not sound, ask it to act as an instructional designer. Another thing that you can do instead of just critiquing it, to ask it to analyze the content and look for ways for improving it. من ناحية مثلا ال instructional design من ناحية ال content من ناحية ال approach ومن ناحية ال delivery strategy, for example. Again, depending على ايش اللي انت تبغاه, اطلب من ال AI انه هو to critique it, offer you suggestions and actually improve it based على suggestions هذه. However, I will recommend ان انت you ask it to critique it in a prompt based على results حقت الكريتيك, because it's going to critique everything. Some of what it comes back with might be relevant, بعضه ممكن ما يكون relevant. So it might come back مثلا with 5 points and point 3 and 5 are not really important for you. So you can tell it in that case, revise the content using recommendation 1, 2, and 4 above, omitting 3 and 5 that are not important for you. So that also helps it focus على the areas that are important for you. And my last point here, إذا كان you don't know how to create a prompt, إذا كان you don't know how to go about prompting for a particular task or whatever, ask it. Ask the AI. Tell it, I want to, do 1, 2, 3. Help me create a prompt for achieving that result. ما عندك فكرة بالمرة على حتى what 1, 2, 3 is, give it an example. Show it a document. Tell it, I want to create something like this for that topic. Give me a good prompt for doing this. So, be a little bit creative and a little bit daring. يعني ما تخافوا انه انتوا تستعملوا اساليب ممكن تكون غير تقليدية. Bit by bit, when you start doing this, the prompting techniques حقتك will improve. So برضو before I proceed, any questions أو أي شيء ما هو واضح؟ Okay. Another thing بعتبره من ال general guidelines إنه بعض ال AIs عندهم specific features. So مثلا chat GPT, Claude, Perplexity عندهم a function اسمه projects. I'm going to touch on it later on. بس this is very helpful لما بتكونوا بتشتغلوا على repeated sort of tasks. For example, إذا كان you routinely develop training needs analyses, surveys, and assessments, you can create a custom project, call it TNA, and every time that you want to create a TNA survey, you go to that project and you give it a new prompt for that particular topic. بس you would have given it custom instructions على how to create the survey based على requirements حقتك, so you don't have to keep on prompting it في الناحية هذه. The only thing اللي انت you will prompt is a specific topic اللي انت you're looking to do the TNA for. You can do the same for training evaluation, creating outlines, even creating training content. So think about الworkflow حقك. ايش main areas اللي انت بتشتغل فيها, and maybe you might want to create projects for some or all of these. Custom instructions اللي هي at the global level for all AI models or LLMs are very important because they help you customize output من ال LLM, and also it gives it context. So you introduce yourself, you introduce the kind of work that you do, and that helps the LLM understand إيش requirement حقتك. So it gives you better output. So don't ignore the custom instructions. Take the time to fill them out. Usually there is a bit that talks about you, and there is a bit that talks about the kind of output that you want. In the output, make sure and you specify the format, the writing style, tone of voice, all of these things at the global level. So this will apply to all the chats that you will have with that AI. In the project instructions, you can dig down deeper for specific areas that are specific to that use area. Some AIs, some LLMs, they have functionality اسمها deep research. زي مثلا Gemini و Perplexity عندهم ال deep research function. وبرضه I will touch on this later on. So use them when you are, in our case, مثلا for L&D, when you are doing research, when you're gathering information and content to help you create a training program. For example, you can use deep research for Perplexity أو for Gemini علشان to help you gather the information that you need. Chat GPT عنده a function اسمه Canvas that enables you to sort of upload text or a document, even slides, PDFs, images, anything, and work with ChatGPT in sort of real time to adjust التكست, edit it, and so on. This is really useful إذا كان على سبيل المثال specific use case. يعني عندك training content that you developed for a training program 10 years ago and you want to update it, so you can feed that text into ChatGPT Canvas and work with ChatGPT علشان to update the bits that need updating without changing the entirety of the content. And then you can take that text, export it to a Word document, and you're good to go. Google Notebook LM, which is specific to the Google or Gemini platform, is, I will touch on this command later on, is a fantastic tool for a lot of different uses. منها researching, creating research briefs, creating even content to a large extent. Also, for helping you learn about a new topic, regardless of whether أنت كنت a visual or an auditory reader, because it's able to generate what it calls podcasts. So it's able to actually transform a text that you give it into a very entertaining podcast that you can listen to learn about the topic. So if you're not a person that is able to assimilate information quickly through reading, this is very useful for learning new information. برضو before I proceed, any questions أو أي شيء ما هو واضح? I will talk about use cases now. So, a lot of what I talked about will be شوية clearer. But any questions before we proceed? Okay. Okay. So let's talk about use cases ونبتدي من الanalysis phase and how we can use AIs for identifying training needs. In general, I am going to demonstrate some of these points. بس مثلا we can use ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini ال LLMs هدول علشان to generate surveys, questionnaires, whether you're going to use them in a survey or in a focus group or one-on-one, but you can actually create the questions and even the methodology and what to look for علشان to analyze training needs. Once you've collected the data, you can actually analyze it and visualize it. For analyzing the data, I would recommend أي واحد من ال LLMs المعروفة زي ChatGPT, Claude أو Gemini. For data visualization, ChatGPT doesn't do so well. Claude is really good. Julius AI also is really good at sort of giving you automating a process of visualizing the data and giving you a starting point of how you can actually see the trends. Napkin AI is also good. Canva, Graphy إذا كان انتم في المايكروسوفت ecosystem, then Microsoft Copilot can also be useful. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch sort of screens. I'm going to share my screen and I'm actually going to demo some of these use cases. Just give me a minute because I am. Okay. So can you all see السكرين حقت Claude?
Yes.
Okay. So I have some prepared sort of prompts. So let me just load those. Sorry, bear with me for a second. I'm really sorry. I am juggling multiple screens, and it is a bit it's a bit challenging. Okay. So let's go back to this. So as a sort of a quick demo, this is an okay prompt that يعني it's an example of what most people معظم الناس هتستعمل prompt زي هذا. إذا كان مثلا تبغى إن هي تسوي or to generate some questions for a TNA. They'll tell the AI, act as an L&D specialist, generate 5 open-ended questions for a survey to identify a communication skills gap for a customer service representative. So let's give this to Claude and see how it responds. So it's going to give us 5 questions. They're not bad. مش سيئين يعني مش um, we can't really يعني complain too much about them. But let me show you the difference لو شوية حسنا البرومبت. Again, I am telling it how to act. So I'm giving it a role, L&D expert. I am specifying exactly what I want with the question. So this part is different. So I'm asking it to create 5 behavior-based open-ended survey questions that will reveal specific communication challenges customer service representative face during, and then I specify include difficult customer interactions. Include one question each. This is where the specificity comes in. Addressing listening skills, empathy, clear expectation, conflict de-escalation, and follow-up communication. So these are the areas مفترض إنه هذه المناطق اللي أنا أبغى أركز عليها في التدريب حقي. So in that case, I am actually specifying المناطق اللي أنا I need to address in the training. And let's see إيش الديفرنس في ال questions that are generated, our response. So it's giving me زي ما أنا specified in each one of these areas, listening skills, and it gives me the question. The question is much better in terms of quality. So if I take مثلا describe the recent situation where you needed to identify a customer's underlying concern that wasn't explicitly stated, what specific listening techniques did you use, and what barriers or difficulties, what barriers made it difficult to fully understand their need. Compare مع describe a recent challenging customer interaction where you answering that question, this is a little bit too general. I might not get what I really need من الquestion هذا. This is much better. This is a much more specific question. Just for demonstration's sake, I am still going to use the better prompt, and I'm going to show you what happens if I paste it in ChatGPT, just for you to see the difference in different models. بعض الناس they prefer الاوتبوت ستايل حقت chat GPT. بعض الناس they prefer Claude. بعض الناس they prefer Gemini. My experience انه اذا كان you're looking for something that requires creative writing or مثلا brainstorming, ideation, اشياء زي كده, Claude is much better. Most routine tasks, most of the stuff that you will need to do, you will be able to get done with ChatGPT. Gemini is better than both في anything that requires research, because Gemini obviously is مبني على Google data. So كل the might حق جوجل بكل الداتا بكل ال search اللي you can do in Google is available in Gemini. So if you need مثلا up-to-date information, ولا you need something that requires an engine to do some research, then Gemini is much better. However, Perplexity is much better in terms of using verifiable, reputable sources. So إذا كان you need something that يعني يبغى له research, I would actually go to Perplexity first and Gemini as a backup. So as you can see, it's given me questions for each one of these areas. These are also very good questions. And it's nice because it gives you the purpose of that question and إيش الvalue منه. So this is a plus point for ChatGPT. Are there any questions before I proceed على السبيسيفيك point هذه ولا it's واضحة؟ Okay. Let's try something else with also with the analyzing training needs. And I'm going to go back to Claude here, because Claude is شوية better in analysis. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a file that it's dummy data على a training needs analysis. And Claude likes PDFs. So whenever you're uploading documents for Claude, it's the best format is إنه to use a PDF. Again, I'm going to use a not so great, not bad, بس a not so great prompt علشان أوريكم الفرق في ال results لما you use a better prompting technique. So I've uploaded the data. The data contains results from a survey على من managers على leadership challenges that they're facing. And I wanted to identify the key themes wal pain points. And let's see what it gives us back. So it's given me, reasonably good results. So main challenges, delegation and autonomy balance, time management, technical leadership without technical expertise. And it's given me some, specific areas managers mentioned. I'm going to do, again, exactly the same thing, but I'm going to give it a slightly better prompt. And it's better because one, it tells it exactly what to do. So the top three recurring leadership challenges, a root causes mentioned for each of these challenges, and specific skill gaps indicated, and finally, a potential training interventions suggested by the feedback. Okay, and then I want evidence. So support each finding with a brief quote from the data. And the reason you might want to do something like this is because يعني I'm sure كلكم سمعتوا على موضوع ال AI hallucination. So when I ask for the evidence, I'm basically making sure إنه it is not hallucinating the results. Though to be fair, Claude is يعني ال hallucination percent حقته is one of the least في ال LLMs. So Claude doesn't really hallucinate. It does hallucinate, but not as much as ChatGPT or Gemini. And this is واحدة من البوينتس اللي you need to remember. One of the things اللي Claude's creates is, what you're seeing here on the right. This is called an artifact. لما بيكون الريسبونس طويل, it doesn't put it in the chat. It creates a separate artifact for it. A document or a graphic. إذا كان you asked for a graphic, إذا كان you're coding, it will create the code there and so on. And I think يعني it's immediately apparent أولا how much more detailed the answer is compared to the first prompt, and كل sort of added value in terms of ايش main points and supporting evidence for each of it. So if I go back to the beginning, the top three recurring leadership challenges, Claude identifies them for me: delegation and the autonomy, time management, prioritization, leadership in specialized or hybrid environment. It also did the root causes for the delegation and the autonomy, for the time management and the hybrid leadership. It also did the specific skill gaps and so on and so forth. So I can now prompt it for specific areas. So مثلا I can look for, let's say, and I'm designing a training program, training interventions suggested by the feedback. There are 6 points. Let's say إنه I am interested in the first 3 points. So I can take these now, ال 3 points اللي I am interested in, and I can actually prompt it. I can feed them back into the AI and ask it to create methodologies or processes تقدر إنه هي تساعدني على إنه أنا أطبق البوينتس هذه. So and you can do this with يعني الexample اللي أنا I used is qualitative data, because عادة هذه اللي بتكون الأصعب في الاناليسيس. So مثلا إذا سويتوا one-on-one interviews or focus groups, qualitative data علشان تحصل الكي themes والtrends and so on شوية بتكون أصعب. بس you can also do this for survey questionnaires, يعني TNAs that are done through surveys. using quantitative data, and you will get sort of the same kind of results. Another use case is writing smart objectives for a training program. And I want to go to Gemini for this, just to demonstrate different tools. للتوضيح أنا المودلز اللي أنا I'm using كلهم paid versions, بس you should be able and into you get the same kind of results مع free versions. الpaid versions will give you access to شوية better models, and هيكون limitations على how many tokens, how many questions you can ask per day or per certain number of hours هيكون شوية أقل. بس غير عن كده you should be able to do the same whether with the paid or with the free. Again, not a bad prompt, but not great. So write three smart learning objectives for a 2-hour workshop on giving effective feedback for team leaders. And let's see what Gemini does. So, so what it did is that it actually misunderstood prompt, and it is explaining what smart objectives are. So let me rewrite prompt and ask it مرة تانية, بس with a little bit more detail, and see if this time إذا كان هيقدر يفهمني ولا لا. Again, it did not understand. Let's see what ChatGPT does with a better prompt. So ChatGPT is doing a much better job. So it's actually created the prompt, and what is really nice in here, it aligned objectives with Bloom's taxonomy, and focuses on حدد لي ايش areas اللي it wants to focus on. So preparation for difficult conversation, it gave me a prompt, it identified Bloom's level for it, ايش focus, and how we're going to actually measure it for the training. So definitely ChatGPT, things like that, much better. برضو for demo, خلينا نشوف what Claude will do with the exact same prompt, just so that you can see the different outputs. So not a bad response, not as good as ChatGPT's in terms of a level of detail from an L&D perspective. So things like that, where you are actually relying على established methods, processes, systems, and so on, ChatGPT generally does much better than any of the other models. When you are brainstorming ideas or wanting to come up with creative approaches, Claude is much better. Gemini is, like I mentioned, best لما when you are doing search and looking for up-to-date data and so on. So let me go back to ChatGPT, and using these learning objectives, I want a training outline now. So I wanted to create a training outline, and for each module, I'm specifying the training title, topics, interactive activity, and the practical application. And let's see what it does. So once again, it followed my instructions to the letter. It's given me the activity, it's given me the application, it's done basically everything that I asked it, and it's giving me a reasonably good answer. So
وأيضا اتهم نوظف.
آسفة ما سمعت الجزء الأول من سؤالك يا بندر، ممكن ترجع تعيد؟
هو كان عامل انميوت بس يا ليلى.
Okay. Okay. So let me show you what happens if we do زي ما أنا حكيت في الأول. Um, just ask it to critique الأنسر حقته. Critique the above. So it's going to break it into specific areas. Instructional design, إيش الstrength, إيش opportunities, and إيش suggested fix for each one of the modules. And based على الفيدباك هذا, assuming مثلا إنه أنا I want to apply all of it, I can tell it to rewrite the outline to reflect the recommendations حقته. Assuming إنه I'm happy with it طبعا obviously in real life I will read the recommendations هذه, I will أشوف إيش الأشياء اللي applicable, not applicable, and so on. But for the purpose of this demonstration, we can ask it to, or we can assume everything is applicable. So it's giving me a much better result. It's giving me timelines حقت هذا ايش interactive activity. It's basically given me everything that I need. I can refine it further, but I think you get the idea. We can improve quality حقت output simply by using that sort of added prompt, critique or evaluate and identify areas for improvement. Let's look at another use case for researching. And for this, I'm going to go to Perplexity. And I'm going to ask it to tell me what is the latest research findings on microlearning. So it's going to take some time. It's actually fairly quick, and it's going to give me results. And what is really nice about Perplexity in here, it gives you كل sources it used علشان to identify results, and it cites them. So you can actually look على مثلا sentence هذا جاي من source 5 and source 19 ولا 18 and so on and so forth. And it's giving me a fairly comprehensive result وهذه من غير deep research. So this is a standard sort of response. One of the other tools that I really like for research is something called Skite. This is designed for academic research, but it is really, really good for finding, sort of latest trends for specific topics. وبرضه للعلم this is a paid model. There is a trial version for I think 7 days or so, 10 or 2 weeks or something like that. But in order to use a model for good, you would have. So again, what is really nice about Skype in here, it gives you كل ال references ولا sources اللي it used and mentions ال confidence level حقته في how good this source is for the topic اللي you mentioned. إذا كان البيبر سكايت relies على peer reviewed articles. So إذا كانت البيبر is available ممكن إن أنت you can download it. So مثلا if I look at this, I can go to that paper and I can actually view the full text. إذا كانت موجودة, I can download it. So now I have the full article. I can actually download that article. And let me just put it in the folder علشان I can show you what to do with it next. And then I can go to something like Notebook, and I can actually upload that article that I just downloaded. Okay. And once I have the article, I can ask for a briefing document. Okay, it's going to take some time, but it's going to give me, there you go, it's beginning to do it. So it's going to give me sort of like a summary of الارticle. ايش المين points, ايش points that are discussed, and all of that. I can also go back to you know, المين interface, create an FAQ guide. إذا كان الdocument مثلا contains a history of something or شيء زي كده, I can create a timeline. I can also create a study guide that gives you flash cards and notes and so on. I can also create a podcast, which is basically takes كل الconcepts هدول and puts them in the form of a podcast that you can download and listen to at any time براحتكم. What is really nice about Notebook, I'm not going to be able to stop it because it's working. What's really nice, and you don't have to use it one document at a time. You can upload up to 50 documents, and it can actually synthesize them for you and give you sort of a زبدة حقت ال 50 documents هدول and main areas that they cover. Another use case is we can go to any one of the AIs. I like to use Claude for things like this because Claude, it writes better. So مثلا I can take documents هدول, which are basically write notes or background research على adult learning theory. Since we're talking على L&D, I can add them to Claude. And then I can ask it to summarize the key points from these documents. But let's just wait until the documents are loaded. So it has the documents, summarize the key points. We can ننتظره إلين ما يخلص. إذا كان في أي أحد عنده any question, please ask. Okay, there we go. So again, it's structured information. It's given me a practical application that I asked for. So how to use it in online and digital learning environments, in healthcare and professional education, in corporate training and development. And it also gave me emerging trends and considerations. I can شوية improve الquality حقت الprompt حقتي and go for a prompt that sort of gives it a little bit more details. So I can ask it to synthesize into a decision-making guide for L&D practitioners. So use الدata علشان to create a decision-making guide for L&D practitioners. And I've given it some additional information على how I want the format and how it should respond. So it's done all of this. It's also given me evaluation criteria and what are the good approaches, what are the not so great approaches for almost everything that has to do with the data that I gave it, as well as an implementation checklist. Am I going too fast يا جماعة ولا واضح؟ Okay, I'm gonna assume إنه it is واضحة. So we've analyzed the training needs and we've seen how we can use ال AI علشان to generate questions or surveys and analyze the data. We've designed a training program. We've created our objectives. We can create the learning outcomes. We've generated an outline. Now we're looking at content creation. Let's try something that is شوية different. And let's assume إنه I want to create a video-based training module on building psychological safety in teams. Okay, so I'm specifying إيش context, what do I want, إيش results, and ال content that I want ال AI إنه هو to generate. We're going on a completely different topic here, بس يعني just for demo. So it's given me a script for a video that I'm going to develop. At a later point أنا ممكن أخذ الفيديو هذا ممكن أستعمل different AI models. I'm not going to يعني ما أعتقد إنه إحنا يكون عندنا الوقت إنه إحنا نغطيهم اليوم بس ممكن إحنا نستعمل different AIs حقت video generation حقت text to speech. And you can actually create a talking head, very realistic person who is speaking and who is basically narrating كل الأشياء اللي Claude just generated for me. Again, I'm going to ask it to criticize content that it generated, and it's going to give me ideas and suggestions for improving content. So it's identified the issue in different areas: content issue, tone and approach issues, structure issues, and it's given ideas. Again, I can ask it زي ما سوينا المرة اللي قبلها rewrite the content based على recommendations حقتك, and it will do it. يعني without demonstrating, بس يعني موضوع rewriting content يعني زي ما ذكرت إذا كان في outdated training material that you need to update, you can ask the AI to help you with updating material. إذا كان في فلنفرض you want to create a program that uses different modules from خلينا نقول 3 ولا 4 other training programs. So you can actually upload these, tell the AI, and I want to use module 2 from A, module 1 from B, module 4 from C, etc., combine them into one, and then analyze the results, suggest ways for improving flow and continuity, and actually complete your content. I will say one thing for موضوع content creation. Anytime that you ask AI, anytime for any area, anytime that you ask AI to write something for you, please check facts. أنا تكلمت شوية على موضوع الهالوسينيشن التخريف حق ال AI. AI does hallucinate. Claude زي ما ذكرت واحد من المودلز that التخريف حقها أقل. But Claude is not always the best for all applications. ChatGPT is notorious for hallucination, but it is شوية getting better in the newer models. Gemini also hallucinates. So my advice is, especially with statistical data and مثلا any kind of factual information. يعني مثلا لو جاء ال AI وقال لك إنه I don't know 67% of participants prefer this method of learning or whatever. Just take that sentence, plug it into Perplexity, and tell it, is it true that 67% of participants prefer this and that? Just ask it in this format. Is it true that XYZ? Perplexity does not hallucinate. Perplexity is essentially a very smart AI-driven search engine. So it is going to search sources. It's هتشوف إذا كان في أي شيء بيدعم الكليم هذا, and then it will come back and tell you, yes, this is true, and it will show you why it's true. It will give you the, exactly like here, it will give you كل references that talked about this. If it is not, it will tell you it is not. There is no evidence. The evidence اللي موجود بيشير إلى 1 2 3. Not what you asked. So fact check, always fact check. هذه واحدة من ال most important points في ال AI, especially when you ask it to write things or to create content for you. Another thing that AI is very good at is proofreading and rewriting, or not rewriting, repurposing text for a particular use. We take an example. So مثلا إذا كان عندي content that was developed by subject matter experts for a particular training program. وخلينا نقول إنه subject matter experts هدول were academic مثلا. The writing style is very formal, جامدة. It's not really engaging. It's not really simple enough for training content. I can take that content and ask the AI to rewrite it for me as per requirements حقتي. So I can مثلا tell it best practices. بيقول لك إنه writing should be grade 9 or lower. It should be clear, concise, use bullet points, not really هذا, use a lot of graphics. So كل ال guidelines حقت creating effective learning content, I can plug it into a prompt حقي, and I can ask an AI to write that academic dry content and create more engaging material out of it. Obviously, the other thing that we can do is إنه إحنا we can create مثلا outlines for slides from content. So خلاص, I've created let's say the participant workbook, and now I want to create slides. I can plug that participant workbook into the AI and ask it to create slides. I can also ask it to recommend what kind of images and visuals to use with each slide. So, it will give me the bullet points that I will put, but also I want ideas for visuals and images and so on. Another thing is I can ask for images or graphics. In ChatGPT, it will use DALI to create the image. So I've given it a simple prompt, create a simple professional illustration showing knowledge transfer between diverse colleagues in an office setting. And you can iterate على الإيمج هذه. You can, adjust it bit by bit until you get what you want. Obviously, very few of the image generators are really, really good, so you might need to edit images at a later point. But we'll leave it. I don't know how long DALI takes a long time to create. So we'll leave it to create an image حقته. We'll go back to Claude, and now we're looking at end of training evaluation. So I don't have okay. So let's see how we can actually come up with a methodology for evaluating training. So I've given it a fairly detailed prompt. So I'm asking it in هو to create 5 scenario-based assessment questions that present realistic workplace situations that employees would encounter and require the application of specific compliance protocols, and so on. So here I'm obviously assessing learning. I'm assessing level 2, and it's actually generated, multiple choice questions for each of the questions with a scoring guide, what is the correct answer, and so on. I can do the same. I can critique the questions. I can ask it to develop, replace the question هذا by another question, and so on. I can also look at things like creating methodologies or processes for higher levels of evaluation. Obviously, here we're looking at behavior, results, even ROI. It's not really going to be a questionnaire. So I can ask it for a methodology. So create a comprehensive framework for measuring level 3. So here I'm looking at only behavior, following a leadership development program. And I'm giving it some guidelines on how to go about doing it. And it should give me a fairly good framework. So ايش البروسيس that I'm going to actually map the behavior، ايش training to behavior alignment matrix. So مثلا strategic decision making. Observable behavior are identifying multiple alternatives before making decisions, articulating business impact, involving appropriate stakeholders in decision process. So these are things that actually مثلا إذا كان I'm going to look at behavior، مثلا المانجر حق الemployee that I trained can assess التريني on إذا كان they've observed these behaviors ولا لا، and notice إنه هدول كلهم observable. And it's also given me a methodology for collecting the data using best practices, multiple sources, qualitative, and how to actually implement it, and the timeline. So it's given me a complete framework for how to conduct a level 3 assessment. Evaluation, I'm sorry, مش assessment. And I think that's it for the L&D. I would like to touch on additional areas. حكينا في الأول على موضوع personal productivity, and I think هذه واحدة من الأشياء اللي معظم الناس they don't actually look to the AI for. Something as simple as إنه مثلا you take a meeting minutes حقت a particular meeting and ask al AI to summarize it and put al main points for it, and we're using ChatGPT for this. So I've asked for the key points in the action item. So it's given me the key points. And the action items بالtimelines بمين owners. You can use this يعني دحين مثلا الناس اللي بتستعمل مايكروسوفت تيمز has an inbuilt transcribing tool. لو if you use I think all meeting online meeting tools دحين بيستعملوهم. You can record a meeting إذا كانت meeting is face to face using الموبايل حقك, and then you can upload recording to any transcribing tool, even AI. يعني أي واحد من LLMs يعني زي مثلا ChatGPT and so on, you can ask it to transcribe the content and to summarize it and give you the action items in this way. And I think this هذه الأشياء العادية اللي معظم الناس بتستعملها. Write an email, write a report about this, etc. I'm not going to touch on, but I think الأشياء اللي we ignore are helping us develop processes and systems. So مثلا if I am developing a process for managing an end of training evaluation in my company. I can actually ask the AI to help me develop the process. I can ask the AI to help me create a project plan for how I go about implementing a new process. I will give you another stupid example بس it demonstrates الباور حقت ال LLMs. Things like مثلا personal knowledge management, organizing الفايلز حقتنا على الكمبيوتر, even planning and prioritizing الwork حقنا. So you can actually create a very sort of simple table بكل الtasks that you are required to do in the coming week, month, 2 weeks, whatever the period. You can create your tasks, build deadlines حقتهم, and your initial estimate of how long it's going to take. And you can actually ask an AI to create a daily action plan for these, or a comprehensive project plan. Either can all these tasks are related. You can actually ask it to create a project plan for a particular project that you are working on. So be creative in terms of ايش uses حقت ال AI, because الاستخدامات التقليدية زي write an email و write a report و analyze the data are limiting في كثير من الأحيان, and not the full خلينا نقول benefit that we can get من ال AI. So I think that's it. That's my demo. إذا كان في any questions or any points, I will share a couple of slides just because فيهم additional information على different models that can be used. والpresentation هديها الممدوح علشان يعطيكم هي. I'm not able to get this.
يعني بصراحة thank you so much يا ليلى for sharing your experience insights. يعني انت خدتينا كده في learning experience across using ال AI. شفنا ازاي بتستخدموه في ال designing content, في ال content creation, في ال evaluation and so on and so forth. فالاستخدامات طبعا يعني اكيد بتاعت الاي اي في شغلنا ك L&D يعني لا حصر لها. وليها طبعا استخدامات كتيره جدا جدا جدا.
Yes. Yes.
والجميل ان انت مش بتعتمدي على سورس واحد او على تول واحده. You are always trying to even validate ال different outputs اللي بتطلع من ال different LL models. ودي بصراحه من اكتر الحاجات اللي لفتت نظري، لان جايز انا ممكن واحد من الناس بستخدم مينلي الشات جي بي تي. حلو. البيد فيرجن طبعا.
Yeah.
فمش يعني انت النهارده فتحتي او نورتي دماغي، نورتي عندي لمبه كده ان انا لا اي هاف تو ميك شور ان ايفن حتى الحاجات اللي بتطلع من شات جي بي تي مش غلط ان انا افاليديت وان انا اشوف اذر
Yes.
موديل او اذر تول، بحيث ان انا اميك شور ان الداتا او الانفورميشن اللي طلعت فعلا فاليديتد وكونفيرمد. لان دي ممكن لو انا بشتغل مع كلاينت او بشتغل مع كومباني او كونسلتنت اي هاف تو ميك شور ان كل حاجه بتبقى
Yes.
كرييتد فعلا فاليديتد. فثانك يو سو
Yes.
ماتش فور
Yes.
هايلايتنج ذس.
موضوع الهالوسينيشن هذا يا جماعة please 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 do not ما تاخدوا كل شيء ال AI بيقولوا as fact. يعني ال personal experience حقتي, especially when you're creating extensive content, يعني anything that is longer than مثلا a page, it's going to be anywhere between 5 to 15% of what you're getting is hallucination. So please, please, please check the facts.
وخصوصا لو حاجه فيها داتا وارقام
أيوه.
وبرسنتج.
Yes.
ديفينتلي يس،
Yes.
ديفينتلي يس. جميل جدا. طيب خلينا برضو لو في نفتح المجال، لو في اي سؤال او اي استفسار او حد عنده اي حاجه حابب يسال فيها ريليتد للكونتنت اللي احنا غطيناه. فمعانا محمد اول واحد، فبليز يا محمد اتفضل.
شكرا يا ممدوح، وميرسي كتير ليك يا ليلى على كم المعلومات والحاجات اللي احنا اتعلمناها منك. ربنا يكرمك يا رب. انا السؤال بس بالنسبه لليوز كيسز بما ان احنا في مجال ال L&D واستخدام الاي اي، وان الاي اي فيه تطور رهيب الفتره دي، فهل في اي امثله او يوز كيسز تم استخدام فيها الاي اي ايجنت؟ وليكن مثلا زي تشات بوت. هو الاي اي ايجنت فيه تايبس كتير قوي، فهل في اي امثله مثلا او كيسز تم استخدام فيها الاي اي ايجنت قريب، او في اي بروجكتس في اي اماكن ممكن نستخدمها في المجال بتاعنا الخاص بالاي ان دي؟
Okay, so agentic AI عامة يعني it's becoming very fashionable. الناس تحكي في الاجنتك AI. مثلا latest model حقت كلود اللي هو ال 3.7 sonnet هذا is an agentic AI model. بس we're شوية far from having AI agents يعني common يعني في العموم كده. A lot of people بيلخبطوا ما بين ال AI agents وال custom GPTs, and they're very different. Custom GPTs are أي شيء أنت ممكن يعني هدول especially في chat GPT. You can يعني مثلا لو رجعت لي الإكزامبل اللي أنا كنت بتكلم عليه, you can create a project for TNAs مثلا. But you can also create a custom GPT for TNAs and use it every time that you are going to analyze training needs. And this is not really an agentic AI. يعني the closest probably you will get to agentic AI is using things like مثلا Zapier علشان to automate a certain process, and يكون في عندك multiple tools that are working together علشان to yield a particular outcome. وهذه يبغى لها كثير أطول من ساعة يا محمد. فيعني ممكن إنه إحنا نحكي فيها في مرة تانية يعني, بس it's a very complex process يعني.
شكرا
No,
جدا يا
actually,
غدا.
it's not
شكرا.
complex. It's lengthy. It's not complex. It's lengthy.
اوكي
يعني
تمام، شكرا
بياخد
جدا.
وقت بس مش معقد يعني, ما تخاف منه.
اوكي تمام، شكرا جدا ليك.
يا هلا.
طيب في عندنا أي سؤال تاني حد حابب يسأله؟ أوكي. طيب
Okay.
في
So
النهاية اتفضل.
زي ما أنا ذكرت السلايد ديك هبعتها لي ممدوح, and as you can see في كل واحدة من الuse areas أنا I've included sort of يعني ما هقدر أقول إنه يعني this is the best, بس from my experience my use هدول الأشياء اللي أنصح فيهم. بس في الأخير يعني هيرجع لي البيرسونال preference حق كل واحد فيكم إيش يبغى يستعمل فيهم. لكن في يعني some يعني different AI tools. يعني مثلا لو أخذنا slide design and development, معظم الناس تعرف جيما, بس there's also Tome, Canva, beautiful AI. They also do slides that are becoming popular. So just some ideas يعني for different tools ممكن تستخدموهم in each one of these use cases. They're not set in stone. أنا ما بقول لك أنتوا تستعملوا these areas, لكن these are things that are commonly used. في use cases أنا ما تكلمت عنهم because they're quite lengthy. حتى in terms of a demonstration they would take a long time, زي مثلا image generation, video generation, music generation, text to speech, I'm sorry, and meeting transcripts and so on. I think these are important for an L&D. We use them quite a lot, but they're lengthy in terms of a demo. I encourage you to experiment with them and try them out. You might love them, you might hate them. I don't know.
معلش كنت عايز اسالك على حاجه ريليتد لسكايب يا ليلى. انت قلتي ان هو مينلي للاكاديميك ريسيرش، يعني ما اقدرش استخدمه لاي كايند اوف جنرال ريسيرش؟
You can, but the sources that Skype uses are peer-reviewed articles, full stop.
امم
So it is only going to use peer-reviewed articles as sources, which is fantastic إذا كان you're looking for مثلا the latest trends أو academic research trends for a particular topic. Another tool that is really, really good for research is Research Rabbit. Research Rabbit and SciSpace they will also use academic sources, but they're not so advanced in terms of academic. Research Rabbit is free. SciSpace عنده free وعنده paid. You can, get away with the free. Skype is paid. You're gonna have to pay for it. After that trial version, you're gonna have to pay for it.
Mhm.
Illicit is also very good. Illicit is one of those research. They are for academic, but it's one of the really nice things about it is that you can have a conversation with the PDF. So you can identify مثلا a relevant research paper, and you can, have Illicit explain it to you, simplify it. You can ask about certain things. إذا كان مثلا في difficult data analyses, it can simplify data analysis. For general research, non-academic, Notebook LM and Perplexity are really good, and Gemini Deep Research. Gemini Deep Research is really good at this because you have كل المايت حق جوجل بكل السيرش indexes that it has at your fingertips, so you can use it.
جميل جدا. اوكي. والله يا ريهام احنا مش محتاجين سيشن واحده، احنا محتاجين a lot of sessions يعني عشان نقدر نغطي فيها كل التوبكس ويبقى فيها ديمو بالمنظر ده.
صراحة شكرا، معلش لو تسمح لي يا محمد، بجد شكرا. وانا يعني بحاول اكتب واخد كوبي بيست واعمل سكرين شوت، بجد حاجات كتيرة قوي، يعني محتاجين فعلا نشوف الحاجات دي اكتر كمان.
Find me on LinkedIn يا جماعة إذا كان في any specific questions ولا you have any sort of, question or something that you want my help with. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to help. أنا ما عندي أي مشاكل في بالعكس, I love helping people. So if you have any questions or if you want my help with anything, find me on LinkedIn and drop me a message. I would love to help.
Thank you so much يا ليلى، وانا I shared your LinkedIn already في الشات بحيث ان لو في حد عنده اي سؤال او استفسار ممكن يتواصل معاكي. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your experience and insights. وthank you all بصراحة for attending النهارده. هستأذنك بس يا ليلى لو stop share السكرين، لان احنا بنحب ناخد جروب فوتو بعد
Yes,
اذنك،
I am
بحيث ان
trying.
لو امكن ان انتوا
Yes.
اي حد كان open the cam وتيك البيكتشر يبقى جميل جدا. اوكي. So يلا بينا. 1 2 3. Perfect. Thank you so much. ونشوفكم إن شاء الله في
Thank
next
you
session.
everybody, وشكرا لصبركم معايا، ويعني أتمنى إنه هو يكون مفيد. And like I said, إذا كان في any question or anything ممكن أنا أساعد فيه، يعني يشرفني إن أنتوا to connect with me على LinkedIn. Just drop me a message. You don't even have to connect يعني. Just drop me a message.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. تصبحوا على خير.